Hi, this is Kristen here with another process video, and today I'm working on day 24 of 31 days of Cutfiles, and I'm documenting a couple photos of my daughter looking out the window at the deer eating from the bird feeders. I'm going to use simple stories, simple vintage woodlands, and the cut file, of course, is from Some Assemblage Required, and it's all, this week it's pretty much outdoorsy themed, with a lot of layering. So I decided I'm going to go ahead and color the cut file. And so this is the bottom lettering. So it's, like cut out, it's layered. So this is in Pink Sands, which is a 49 market color. And then I go in with a color called Strawberry Pie, and I'm going to color the top portion of the cut file. So this will layer over the top of what I just colored. Which obviously, if you print off this cut file, you wouldn't have to necessarily layer it like this, but I always think it looks, it looks nice to do that. So the saying is outside my window, which is why I chose those couple of photographs. Now, those photos, I ended up printing them off in black and white because I had picked simple vintage woodlands, which to me like kind of had more of a springy / fall or even summer kind of vibe to it. And these photos were actually taken during the winter. Like you could see the snow on the ground in the background. So I went ahead and did black and white. I don't do a lot of photos in black and white, so I thought just for the sheer simplicity, that would be kind of nice. On top of that, the photos weren't the best photos taken. She was a little blurry in them. But I just thought she looked really cute, like smiling and kind of watching the deer outside. She kind of got a kick out of watching them eat from the bird feeders. So I kind of thought, just print it off in black and white, then that way you can really, if you look closely, you can tell it's snow because there's tracks and things in it, but then that way it wouldn't call attention to the fact that I had picked that collection. But that collection's, like, I felt like was really perfect because it had, like, pinks in it, had some deer in it, so I kind of felt like that would go really, really well with a photo of her looking out the window because her favorite color is pink, and of course we had deer outside the window. So where we live on quite a bit of property, so we get wild turkey that come up, we get a lot of deer. We've gotten my husband just recently caught, probably a couple months ago, caught a bobcat on our camera. So we see fox, coyote, all kinds of things up there. And apparently black bears are making their way up here, so I don't know if we'll see them, but they've been sighted close, probably about 20-30 minutes away from us in Ohio. So I wouldn't be surprised if we end up seeing them. So anyway, so it came with this oval piece that you kind of layer this tree, which you don't see, the tree cut file I haven't colored yet. As well as the wording. So I was kind of like back and forth. Do I just leave it white? And I decided I'm just going to go with that Pink Sands and the Strawberry Pie and just kind of put some color on there. I didn't really care if there was like some splotchiness to it. I kind of wanted it to kind of have, kind of a distressed feel to it. So I just was kind of going with it. Just playing around, and sometimes with like new inks and things like that, I kind of feel like that's how you get comfortable with using them. I'm going to go ahead and color the tree cut file, and that's in Green Jane. So I'm using all 49 market. These are all new inks that they partnered up with Ranger Ink to create. So they're supposed to be very pigmented. I know Vicki Booten had like a kind of like where she talked about like the differences between the two. I feel like kind of like the main takeaway I got from a lot of what she was saying is that I felt like with the distress ink you can like kind of blend it out a little bit more, but depending on what medium you use these inks on, it's not as blendable. I think on her cardstock, maybe it would work okay, like with her mixed media cardstock. So, but I haven't really played enough between the two of them to kind of really kind of differentiate between the two. So I don't know if you're more of, and I'm not a huge mixed media person, so I'm not very well educated on all that. So really, if you could kind of describe to me kind of how you feel about them, that might be helpful, and how I use them moving forward. But I kind of almost use them a little bit like distress ink. I need to try to use them like in a watercolor kind of fashion and just kind of see how they differentiate between the two of them. So since I had decided to go ahead and color the background of that oval piece, I kind of felt like then my title was kind of blending in. So I decided to go around the edges with that strawberry pie to kind of just kind of make them stand out a little bit more from that background oval. And it wasn't like, I obviously wasn't going to be able to get into every little crevice of it. So I just did the best I could do just in that way. I felt like that title kind of stood out a little bit more. I don't know that it made a huge difference, but I felt like it to an extent did. And I had realized like the whole entire time I was like assembling this and kind of holding it up that I was holding it completely the wrong way. So I'm glad I realized that before I, started gluing everything down. So I'm going to work in these photographs of my daughter and kind of start to figure how I'm going to lay this layout out. So this pink, it's kind of like a peachy pink paper. I had gotten that from my stash. And then I decided I was going to do like kind of a half and half layout a little bit, like rip this Simple Stories paper and have it kind of creeping up below the photos and have the photos kind of tucked in there. So I just went ahead and kind of like fussy tore it. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue, get everything adhered down here in terms of the paper, and then start to kind of go from there. Now I have to warn you that I do end up cutting this off. So most of the video will be basically me kind of getting the photographs on there and getting them ready. But then I didn't realize that the camera had turned off. And so all the ephemera that I had collected and kind of got, was working with and figuring out how I want it arranged on the photo, on the layout, it all got cut off. So essentially it'll go from like me essentially getting like the title, the photos down, and then all of a sudden it'll be a finished page. So I apologize for that. I did not realize that happened until I was going back to edit it, and I was so disappointed to see it. I usually will check in several times with my camera to see how everything looks, but I think in the midst of this, my daughter had woken up, and she's got a little cold since going back to school. So I think, I kind of got a little distracted by that. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and mark out the kind of where the photos are going to be. I decide I'm going to add in kind of a little bit of shadowing here. I was kind of back and forth on whether or not I wanted to do this, but it's not a technique I usually do very often. But I see a lot of people do it and I really like it. So I'm like, you know what, let's just do it. So this is in the strawberry pie. And I keep putting the photos back there to kind of see that I felt like the color was fairly even on it. I mean, it didn't have to be perfect, obviously, but. So then I'm going to go ahead and get these photographs adhered down. And then I'm going to start getting the title piece adhered down. So I you can see how like kind of splotchy it is from like me hitting it with that brush. And so I really wanted to kind of like blend it out with water, but I was kind of A, limited in time, B, I didn't have any water sitting there, and I was kind of trying to finish this up fairly quickly since she had woken up. So then that way, she wasn't, if she needed me to come in there and kind of get her back to sleep, I wasn't, in here in the craft room still working on this layout. So I was trying to kind of get it all tidied up and finished. And then I realized here, like when I had adhered down the oval, it wasn't where I needed it to be in order to fit this cut file. Because the cut file, the way that it was cut was so that the tail end of that part at the bottom would kind of curve with the oval. And I kind of messed up and didn't have it placed over far enough. Well, because I had used Nuvo Deluxe adhesive to glue down the ring, the outer ring of that oval piece, I obviously couldn't move it. So I'm like, let me just cut off the little tail end piece of it and just, you know, put it on, adhere it this way. So that was kind of my remedy for that. And this week's cut files, they're going to be a lot of like, I have a feeling probably a lot of people are going to be coloring them. There's a lot of layers to them. So I'm kind of interested to see how people utilize the cut files. So I decided I'm going to pop up the title on some foam just to kind of bring it out from the background there a little bit, since I kind of felt like it kept blending in a little bit too much there. And so here, of course, is where I told you all of a sudden it was going to be a finished layout. So I apologize. All the pieces that I have on this page are all ephemera from the Simple Vintage Woodlands. The little deer there, that's a chipboard piece. And then I added some brads to it. Here are a couple close-up shots. And I appreciate you coming by to watch another process video.